And our next story is told by a person who has such a great heart, who has such capacities for connection. Everywhere I go, every meeting I'm invited to, every benefit I'm able to attend, every conversation among these purposeful, transformative humans that I've had the chance to run with here in Orange County, everyone seems to know Ed Hart. And in a minute, you'll know him too.
The stool was going to be for Charles and for Julie, but it's for me because I have a bad knee. Christmas night, 2017. I'm upstairs in the office at our home that we're renting, and I'm realizing, again, the rent is higher than I can probably pay each month, and I'm finding ways to get creative, working 3 or 4 jobs. But as I was upstairs and just doing a few things and paying the car registration on the DMV side, I went on and I thought, I'm going to just look around at this personalized license plate thing. And I typed in, I saw that you could put a heart. I thought, well, that's cool. That's my last name. So let me put a heart on it first. And then, okay, what do I love? I love the Dodgers. That doesn't really sing to me. I love USC. Went there, played, love their football team. That doesn't do it. I started thinking about what I do for a living. And I get to work with family-owned companies. And I truly look at that as I get to. So I put Hart, the number 4, FAMBZ, Hart for Family Business. And I started to cry. So much so that I actually got the credit card out, bought it, went downstairs, said, "Hun, I just spent $55 on the DMV site." "Oh, great, what'd you do? Love Dodgers, love USC, what'd you do?" And I said, I put Hart, the number 4, FamBiz. And you thought I cried upstairs. She started to sob in the kitchen. And she says, "You finally picked your lane." I had worked as a baseball general manager. I had worked in sales. I had worked in payroll. I had worked in a lot of different industries, always saying, this is my last job. This is my last job. I finally found it. But it wasn't until I realized that my heart, my passion, is for serving family businesses and finding what they need and connecting them to those needs. Jay talked earlier about how I'm a connector. Kids have asked me, "Dad, what do you do?" I connect people. I find out what somebody needs, find out who does it, put them together. And that's my greatest joy, is to connect people. So I found my purpose. I got the license plate, put it on my car, an old beat-up Kia Cadenza. And you'd think that that's where my story got better, but it didn't. That was 2017. 2018, income didn't go up, expenses did, cars were getting older. My wife's health, there were some financial challenges that were not going away, that were getting worse. But you'd think that I found my purpose and my life was now easy, and it wasn't. It was actually getting a little bit harder in a lot of ways. In that time while we were doing that, my wife and I had seen a neighborhood that we really liked. We'd never bought a house, because we'd always been renting, because I didn't believe that I could ever own a home. Didn't have the credit score or the income, and just felt like I was in the way. And so we just decided, we're gonna look at these homes and decide if it's something we can do. And we were able to kind of customize it the way we wanted, and hadn't committed, but we finally decided, we're gonna commit to this, and then we're gonna figure out how. We're not gonna let the how or what have you get in the way. We're just gonna commit. Within weeks of committing, a gentleman who was on my board when I worked in minor league baseball back in 2007 called me, and I'd stayed in touch with him off and on, but he called me up at the beginning of 21 and said, "Hey, do you have any students at Cal State Fullerton that might be interested in making a few extra bucks? There's this thing called the PPP process, and we need some people to process loans. We're inundated. Our banks can't do it, so we're taking over some of these." And so I said, "What are you talking, like money here?" Suddenly I'm thinking, hey, maybe this is an area where I can start getting out of my way. So I went through the training and I learned how to process loans, and the next thing I knew, I was staying up, to the wee hours and on the weekends. And so as I started doing loans, I started thinking, wow, look at all this money we can make. And I created a spreadsheet with here's the borrower, and here's their company, and here's where they live, and all over the country, and here's the steps, and then here's this column on the Excel spreadsheet I created, commission. So I started looking at, John Smith, Las Vegas, Nevada, blah, 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 blah. Here's their loan. I'm going to make $830, and it's going to take me 10 minutes. So I'm like thinking, oh, wow, this is awesome. I'm going to start just raking into money. We're going to buy this house. So I kept looking at this right-hand column of all the money I was going to make and everything going on. And my dad had passed away, or he passed away later in 21. So during this time I was doing these loans, he was around still and healthy and coherent, and daily conversations with him. And I remember just one day I was talking with him about this and just feeling like, hey, this money's going to come in, we're going to buy this house, and I expected him to be all excited. And he looked at me and he said, why are you really doing this? And I didn't answer that question at that moment. He said, I am going to give you one piece of advice, and I've thought about it a lot, and I've watched you, Ed, in your life be really stuck in your own way, stuck not being able to accomplish, not being able to obtain, not being able to provide, not being able to be the man that you are meant to be because you're so in your way. The advice that I'm going to give you right now, son, is when you're stuck, serve. What I did that night was I unbolded the column of commission, and I went over to the first column, which is the names of the people, and I put those in bold. And the next day, how the process worked is you'd get the application, you'd process the loan, you'd send it, you'd never talk to the people. You just processed it, it was an application. The next day I started calling the people. When I get the application, I call them and have a conversation with them. Tell me your story. And over the next couple of months, I stopped looking at the right-hand column and the money, and I just continuing to look at the left-hand column. And I realized, everything I do is about people. If you have my first bank business card and you flip to the back, the most important investment of all is in relationships, is what it says on the back. Now, I didn't put that there. Our bank put it there. That's all of our cards. But it resonates with me so deeply that these relationships with these borrowers was why I was doing what I was doing. I didn't look at the commission number again until the checks were coming. And I knew what the dollar figure was that I needed to be able to buy this house that my wife and I dreamt about. And when I added it all up, we really wanted to get to 20% down payment because we didn't want to pay the PMI and all these other things. So that was sort of in the back of my mind, the number. When I looked at that dollar figure on my last check, the dollar figure was almost within about $100 of what that dollar figure would be. For the first time in my life, I was going to be able to provide for even though the kids had all moved on and had their own kids and so forth. We're up to 9 grandsons, number 9 coming any day now. Becky right up here. 9 boys. I got my baseball team. When you're stuck, serve. You're stuck in your marriage, and I had been, off and on over the years. Serve your wife. You're stuck with your boss. Serve him or her. In that case, it was a him at that point. If you're stuck in any relationship, get outside of your own stuckness. Get outside of what's killing you. Get outside of what's hurting you, what you're thinking about, what you're laying in bed at night worried about, stressed about. Look at that situation, look at that other person on the other side, and just serve them.